Okay, next we're going to do multiplication of integers, okay? Basically, when you multiply integers, you just multiply the numbers together and then figure out what the sign should be in the answer, okay? So let's say we have something like this, okay? -3, that's money you owe, right? So that could be a bill for $3 times 2. Well, if you have 2 bills for $3, you owe $6, okay? You could write this the other way, it doesn't matter. It could be 2 times -3 also. The answer is still going to be -6, okay? So let's look at what happens here. If the signs are different, in other words, you've got a negative here and a positive here, okay, negative and a positive. If the signs are different, the answer is always going to be negative, okay? I like to do a reminder here that one bad apple spoils the barrel. I guess when apples used to come in barrels, when one of them got rotten, if you put it in the barrel, that rottenness would spread to all of them, okay? So if the signs are different, the answer is going to be negative, okay? If there's just one negative, they're both going to be negative. What if the signs are the same? Well, if we had 4 times 5, okay, these are both positive numbers, okay, 4 times 5 is 20, the answer is positive. What happens if we have -4 times -5, okay, and this is the one that can be a little bit confusing, okay. If there's one negative number, okay, one bad apple, the answer is negative, okay. If there's 2 the same, okay, if the signs are the same, the answer is always positive, okay? A negative times a negative is a positive. You have to say that to yourself over and over, okay? If the signs are the same, the answer is positive. The way we remember this is a negative times a negative is a positive, okay? A negative times a negative is a positive. One bad apple spoils the barrel. Okay, so if the signs are different, one negative and one positive, the answer is always going to be negative. If the signs are the same, the answer is going to be positive. And the one that is a little bit confusing, a negative times a negative is a positive. You just have to say that to yourself over and over until it becomes something that you'll never forget. Okay, so let's just do a couple of examples. Then we'll move on to division. Okay, here's 4 times -3. Well, 4 times 3 is 12. You've got one bad apple there. You've got one negative sign. That's going to be a negative. -3 times -2. 3 times 2 is 6. But now you know that a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, so it's going to be 6. Okay, if we had -3 times 5. Okay, 3 times 5 is 15. We've got one bad apple, we've got one negative sign, the signs are different, that's going to be negative. Okay, but if we have -6 times -2, 6 times 2 is 12, a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, multiplying decimals, multiplying integers, I'm sorry. Let's look at division. Division works exactly the same way multiplication does for the most part, okay? You divide the numbers that you're given, and then you figure out what sign is correct, okay? Let's use an example. What if we go to lunch and the bill is $12, okay, for 2 of us? If I divide that by 2, 12 divided by 2 is 6. Well, each of us owes $6 if I divide by 2, so that's a negative answer, okay? Again, we've got different signs here. We've got one negative sign, one bad apple, okay? That spoils the barrel. That's going to give us a -6. Doesn't matter if the signs were different. If it was 12 divided by a -2, the answer would still be a -6, okay? One bad apple spoils the barrel. Okay? Signs are different, the answer is negative. What if the signs are the same? Okay? If we had 14 divided by 7, the signs are the same, the answer is 2, and of course it's positive. If we had a negative 14 divided by a negative 7, well, 14 divided by 7 is 2, and the rule, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay? If the signs are the same, the answer is positive. You've got to remember a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay? A negative times a negative is a positive. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay? Okay, a couple of last things before we leave integers. Remember that any number divided by itself is 1. Okay, so if you have 4 divided by 4, the answer is always going to be 1. Okay, well, if that's a negative 4 divided by a negative 4, one bad apple, the answer is going to be negative. Okay, if it's 2 negatives, okay, the same sign, negative 4 divided by negative 4, well, a negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. Okay? It could be larger numbers. It could be 200 divided by negative 200. Okay? We're still dividing 200 divided by 200. The answer is still 1. And since we've got one negative sign, one bad apple, the answer is going to be negative. Okay? Also remember that any number times 0 is 0. So if we have negative 6 times 0, the negative 6 doesn't matter. Okay, anything times 0 is 0. And if we have 0 divided by any number, if we divide 0 by negative 4, okay, you can't divide 0 any smaller. So 0 divided by any number is still going to be 0. Okay, just a quick review. When you add integers, it's money you have combined with money you owe. Okay? Money you have and money you owe. To subtract integers, rewrite, use the trick. First number stays the same, sign changes to plus, and the second number has its sign reversed. Okay? Multiplication and division. Go ahead and multiply or divide the numbers, and then figure out the sign. If the signs are different, your answer is negative. Okay? One bad apple spoils the barrel. If the signs are the same, your answer is positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. A negative divided by a negative is a positive.